here is the agenda. Let's see. So we have today we're going to go through the 1.20 release highlights, the Hummingbot Bounties. But basically, we're going to talk about the new Bounties program we have, which allows external partners to use the same system we've used for the past year to maintain Hummingbot through the community developers. And then I'll talk about some updates we have to our Botcamp training program. Historically, this has been a cohort-based program. We've had about 120 people take the course, but now we're making it more accessible and affordable and turning it into more of a monthly training program with live sessions, as well as kind of like a competition at the end of the month, because we feel like that'll result in a more fun experience for everyone involved. And then finally, I'll show and our Epoch 6 polls, which basically allows the community to vote on which connectors should be included in the Hummingbot codebase, and allocates a certain amount of bounties to the top ones that they vote for, which can be used for maintenance and content and so forth. So it kind of uses the same system that I'll discuss in a little bit. Okay, so let's get started. Some of the big changes in this release were the addition of the Cython library that we now have, which we're using and in the new backtesting element of dashboard. So a lot of the changes in Hummingbot has really in the last few months has really been in changing the ways that you can access Hummingbot. So the core engine and the connectors haven't really changed much, but we've increased the number of ways that you can access it. You can install it from source, from Docker. You can install just a library now, and you can also install a dashboard, which helps you manage multiple bots and do backtesting and things like that. So hopefully we're able to expand the reach of Hummingbot and to kind of like basically allow people to use it in different ways, however they want. So a couple of things that was new here was we've kind of solidified and formally introduced the V2 strategy framework. So the history of Hummingbot is that when we first started, our strategies, which many people use today, they're basically like programs with parameters you can define. For instance, for pure market making, you can find your spreads, the exchange you're trading on, many other parameters. But you really had no way to define and figure out if those parameters were actually good or not. And so I think what a lot of people, the need they had was for backtesting, to be able to take historical data and to assess how a strategy would behave on historical data before deploying it live. So in order to actually do this, we've learned a lot about how to do backtesting over the years. Initially, when we were part of Coin Alpha, we tried to build a backtester that would basically perform the same way as Hummingbot using kind of raw order book data. It did work, but the complexity of the engine, the amount of data you needed, and just kind of like the usability for certain types of strategies, and so that was quite limited. And so today, even though Coin Alpha does still use it internally, they never decided to actually productionize it for external use. And on our side, we also realized the need to kind of match the data with kind of like the backtesting and having the strategy. Given our audience, we felt that it was actually better to have create a simpler version of a backtesting engine. And so that's kind of what we've done with Dashboard. So what Dashboard now does is it collects historical candles from an exchange, and it can use those candles to backtest strategies of certain types. But in order to also do backtesting, we also had to basically create a framework that allows users to define strategies that are backtestable, right? Because basically what I mean there is if you have any arbitrary strategy, that strategy, you kind of have to have the logic connected with the backtester. And so what we've done now with these strategies is split them into two elements. Overall, there's the collection of the data, which is called the controller, and then also the execution of when a signal has been triggered and having that execution kind of handed off to another component called an executor. So basically, you can think of it as like the candles are the data that's the strategy is being aware of, and it's using to kind of like look at the historical time frame, and then the controls are basically taking that data, figuring out what conditions are available, and then deciding what executors should be doing. And then the executors are like in the market already managing a set of orders or doing something like that. So overall, I think because it's relatively complex, we're going to create more video content like the one that Fade has here. He's working on another one that's more kind of like more of like a playlist that shows you how to do the backtesting. But overall, we know we're kind of introducing a lot of new functionality. And so we really want users to actually test it out and give us feedback. So that's why we're trying to spend a lot of time on both like on kind of documentation as well as in creating videos that try to explain how people use it. So all that stuff is really kind of like in dashboard, and also I think this strategy performance page is a lot better now after this pull request that community member Droopman contributed. So now after this PR, you can just drop in a SQLite database. When I participated in a beta bot battle a while back, this was the bot that I ran. So when I uploaded the SQLite database to dashboard, this is the new version that includes the strategy performance page. I just need to kind of hit this explore button, and it will show basically, it would take basically the data contained in the database and kind of allow the user to kind of analyze and visualize that performance. So as you can see, the market making strategy that I put in place didn't perform super well. But it actually only lost like kind of $5. So given that it was pure market making on a single pair, it wasn't that bad. But overall, what I liked about this was that it shows you the market activity, and you can kind of drill down in specific time frames to analyze like one window of time and see what happened over here. And then I think being able to compare this with, let's say, like what's happening on the exchange, I think is pretty valuable. Another thing that I think is interesting is that like seeing kind of like how your inventory changes in relation to your profits. Things like what time of day you had the most gains or losses. There's actually quite a lot of interesting things here you can glean from the data of your trades. And so I think this was a really important contribution by a community member working on dashboard. So I just want to highlight that, and thank Droopman for making that contribution. So a couple other things in dashboard. So we also added the ability for you to now create basically a master bot, add credentials to that master bot, and then now when you create instances, you're basically using that kind of copying over those credentials into each instance you're creating. So check that out. And also, I believe there's something we just recently added, which was the authentication. So now with dashboard, the one I have running here, it's just there's no auth here. So obviously it's not very secure. But recently we added the ability for you to add an admin user, kind of like login and password for different users, so that you can make dashboard more secure when you're using it in production. So I did want to kind of talk briefly about Hummingbot Library. So this is very new, but we now have Hummingbot as a Python library. So for example, you can just let's see. I just show you real fast. So I believe let's see. I believe I already have it here. So if I go to just into a Python shell, I've already done the pip import Python. So basically, just type pip import Python, and you'll install it in your Python shell. And afterwards, I'm gonna just copy this code and see if it runs. So here, so basically, this this is, oh wait, actually no, that's not going to work. Okay, so actually, so you can see it's actually trying to fetch the candles here, and I promise if I were not based in the U.S., that this actually would work. But like well, once you are not in the U.S. Then and you run this, you will actually see it download the candles for the BTC USDT pair on Binance Perpetuals, in 3-minute candles, and it will download 140, this many records, which is the last 30 days. So just as an introduction, the reason we're doing this is because Hummingbot can be used in a variety of ways, and so now I think we've kind of like essentially because what you see as a client is kind of like just the like the skin on top of the core Python processes happening. So what we've done is we've essentially taken the core processes and wrapped it in a library. And so now, even any Python developer, you can open this in a notebook or locally. You can import the library, and then from that library, you can just use the data feeds directly, for example, or you can kind of like use a connector directly. So we haven't really scratched the surface. We're only scratching the surface of what's possible with the library. So we haven't fully documented it yet, but it's out there already. Anyone wants to try it out. If you have like code samples you want us to take a look at, let us know. But we think this is an important development in the history of Hummingbot because it kind of allows even more customization based on the underlying engine. Yeah, and actually, I think Fede point out some important differences between kind of like how Hummingbot and other open source libraries like CCXT work. So let me just pull that into view here, because basically, So I think someone from community asked what the difference between CCXT and Hummingbot are, and so overall, we actually I think they've done a great job of connecting to many different exchanges. But if you want to build a bot on top of CCXT, you still need to handle essentially the process of connecting to the order book. If the WebSocket stream dies, for example, you have to reconnect to the stream. If you send an order to CCXT, and let's say your network connection drops, and you have to fetch an order ID again, you have to manage all that logic yourself. And overall, the reason our connectors take two weeks to build is because we try to create a standardized like wrapper to the exchange connectivity, such that even if, let's say, certain things happen, you're sending out lots of orders, it kind of like tries to detect for like lack of time synchronization, for example, between you and the exchange server. It tries to pick up that stream again when it drops. It tries to dedupe stale orders, that kind of stuff. So overall, and the reason we kind of like had to do this was because we were running QuantFun originally, and we found that if you didn't do this kind of work, then there's always some edge case that would result in your bot like losing money. And so we kind of figured out that like even if you have CCXC, even if you have API middleware, you still have to build this bot engine before that, and building that bot engine that works on every single exchange is just a lot of work. And so that's why machine trading systems out there commercially are very expensive. But we try to build what I think is the only open source one that really works out there. And so that's why I think now we're seeing more and more institutions and trading firms kind of use Hummingbot. Even because it's like either they build it themselves or they use something open source that actually kind of works. Anyway, so I'll let kind of Fede talk more from a technical perspective in the chat about how kind of like the actual differences from a technical perspective. But overall, I think from a user perspective, I can tell you that for me as someone who's not, I'm technical, but I'm not a developer. There's no way I would be able to actually run real market making strategies, feel confident without something like Hummingbot that offloads a lot of the actual like technical work to the connector itself. So anyway, I think for me it's like I think we've tried to design Hummingbot for users who are technical, who are able to kind of like drill down to details, but don't want to debug low level WebSocket connectivity. So anyway, I hope that as a tangent explains it a bit. Let me move on and and just explain some of the rest of the differences, the rest of the highlights in this release, and then we'll move on to explaining how some of the changes in Hummingbot's bounty system have occurred in the last few months. So we also want to thank Abel, AA Armoa, for his contribution to upgrading Cython to version 3.0. So we recently upgraded Python as well recently. So having Cython, also updated, really kind of like is an important contribution. So thank you, Abel, for this contribution. Two new connectors in this release. One is a new chain as well as a DEX connector for Kujira, a layer 1 ecosystem built on Cosmos. So Kujira Fin is a DEX order book exchange. I do think order book exchanges are the ones that seem to be getting the most traction in the market from our connector standpoint. So I'm glad that we have Kujira now in the code base. And thank you to the folks at Danilo at Fantastic and Mike and his team at Your Trading AI for the contribution. So this was a result of a snapshot proposal. I wanted to congratulate Kujira on getting the code base and hopefully being a great part of the community going forward. One question is, does Kujira require a gateway? Yes, Kujira is a gateway connector. So that's why it kind of goes through a gateway. We also have WooX in the code base. WooX is a centralized exchange. We've integrated just on the spot side so far, but I think they also are pretty active on the decentralized side as well. So we hope to expand our partnership with them in the future. This was actually, I believe, built by WooX themselves. And so I think they proposed into the code base as a PRP. This is before we had the new connector proposal system. I think this was in the code base as of this release, and hopefully it'll be in the code base very much going forward. Finally, a couple last issues in this release. We also added the coin cap rate as a rate source. I haven't tried it myself, but I've heard from our QA team that this rate source seems to work better than CoinGecko because it has better rate limits. I think CoinGecko, the rate limits are used up pretty quickly. So I think if you kind of have an issue with CoinGecko, I would recommend getting API key and then using this as the rate source. I believe it's still free, which is why I think we are using this as one of the rate sources in Hummingbot. And finally, we're really kind of like seeing the impact of having a kind of a growing army of community developers who are able to from the Hummingbot, who are able to fix issues and maintain connectors. So as you can see, we've had a lot of fixes recently to DYDX, Polkadex, Injective, Gate, and MEXC, and Bitmart. So a lot of this stuff, I think, hopefully is will be useful to users out there. So so for now, I wanted to shift gears a bit and move on to the second item on our agenda, which is talking about the new Hummingbot Bounties program. We have a new bounties section here in the documentation. We see bounties as kind of like matching two parts of our community. We have contributors who are developers and quant traders who are using Hummingbot, who've built connectors, who understand how the code base works. And then we also have sponsors who might be exchanges, might be us, might be other blockchain protocols that want to get some work done. And so for the past almost the past year or so, we've been running this bounty system internally to maintain all the different connectors in Hummingbot. So this is kind of how we're able to maintain a code base with 56 connectors, despite having only 7 people on the team and only one real engineer, which is Fede. And the reason is because we've been using the system in order to identify bugs, create bounties for them, create bounties for connectors, and then having the community actually build. And we're the ones who essentially are assigning the bounties. We test the pull requests. We kind of verify that the work is actually been done, and then after it's merged into the code base, we then pay the developer. So I think we're actually now ready to really open this up to external partners as well, because we do see a lot of active usage of our dev wanted channel on Discord, people looking for private strategies, private connectors, or even public, new connectors, as well as fixing bugs for existing connectors. So so I want to kind of like formally kind of open this up to partners. So we have information on the bounties section on our docs, and in the sponsor section, we also have some information on the bounties process, including a form that you would need to fill out in order to initiate the bounties process, as well as this deck, the Hummingbot Partners deck here, that kind of walks into more detail about how Hummingbot Foundation works, like kind of like our history, size of our community, some testimonials from people. This is, I'm sure people on the audience have seen before, but I do want to show you kind of like a couple of things here, which is, we do kind of talk about a bit. I think have a clear kind of encapsulation of what the architecture looks like. So now we essentially have three basic user interfaces: the dashboard, the client, and the library, and it can access, allow users to create strategies in a variety of ways. You can use the traditional V1 strategies. You can use these new V2 strategies, which are back testable. And you can also write scripts, which are single files, simpler, and can do a variety of things. And once you have your strategies, you can run them on really using the Hummingbot execution engine, which is designed to kind of standardize connectivity to lots of different exchanges, which allows you to kind of write once and run anywhere. And so the main exchanges where we can support today are both the centralized and decentralized exchanges. On the DEX side, I would say we've really built out Gateway quite a lot, but to be perfectly honest, we're seeing the most of the actual usage on these direct connectors on both the SEC side and the DEX side. So one example is I think the injective V2 connector that the injective team built. I think we're already seeing lots of usage there, whereas the initial gateway connector wasn't. I think it just wasn't like kind of fast enough. We're still very supportive of gateway. I would say we also want to just try to make connectors that actually really work for people. So I do think these direct connectors, at least for the foreseeable future, I think are the ones that we want to push and encourage. This is actually how we kind of think about Hummingbot Foundation, which is we're basically a DAO. We're a DAO that is responsible for the maintenance of the Hummingbot code base. But because Hummingbot is, the goal of it is to integrate to lots of different exchanges, our job is really to facilitate the community in actually performing that work. We have partnerships with the exchanges already that, kind of sustain us from a fee share perspective. And I think the new bounties program should help us, really help the exchange partners while also creating, work and work for the community as well. Because a lot of the problem that I think a lot of exchanges have is that they want to create content that really gets people using the connectors. They want to get their bugs fixed. They want to get the connectors upgraded, but they need someone to do the work, but they don't want to manage the whole process. So I think for us, it's a chance to kind of like leverage a system we already have, which is this bounties board, and to basically help people, help exchanges, make their connectors even more usable and worthwhile. So some of the things that we've been doing already with some of the top exchanges are upgrading their connectors, fixing bugs, adding the candles feed, which allows people to create more kind of sophisticated strategies with their connectors, and also kind of like creating new strategy experiments. We did a spot trading competition with Gate.io recently, and also we also have a kind of a support program that encourages and rewards people for supporting people on Discord. So from these things, I think we can kind of start to kind of like basically like expand this out a bit. So now overall with the bounties board, we've kind of like we've seen this process scale quite a lot. So now I think we're ready to actually open up the process and have external partners use it. So, this deck has more information. It's available from the sponsors page in the docs, but essentially there's like a whole process we work through with sponsors in order to scope and to post the bounty. And then after the bounty is posted, we try to identify a developer, monitor their progress, review their code once it's submitted, essentially try to ensure that it actually works before including it in the release or delivered as a private fork to the sponsor. Part of that, our handling fee is 20% of the bounty amount. For the short term, we're offering a discount if sponsors pay and fund the bounty in HBot, and I think we'll do 10% there. Our value add is really kind of like handling the end-to-end process of kind of like getting the work done. And overall, we think that because in the past we found that a lot of exchanges have basically just hired someone from the community or just build a connector themselves, but then afterwards, once in the code base, kind of getting people to use it, upgrading it, fixing bugs, all that kind of stuff. There is kind of like a maintenance cost there, and so we think this bounties process can be a good way to basically to get that done while also leveraging the community. So there's kind of two paths that we're encouraging exchanges to follow. One of which is they can just use the bounties board on a one-off basis. Work with us on a bounty and then kind of use it for future fixes as well. Or they can have us kind of manage a wallet for them. They basically fund a wallet, and then we would basically use that wallet to build connectors, maintain connectors, and also propose regular content and other activities that would we think would encourage and grow the usage of that connector. So so that's really the update on the bounty side, and we think that we're gonna post more information about this process and try to work with different exchanges and other partners to make it successful. But for the community, we think that it's a good chance to basically take some of the skills that you already have in terms of whether it's building connectors or running bots and apply them going forward. Because some of the bounties we have will be for development, like building connectors, but others will be more for around documentation, content, and even strategies. And so the latter three, I think even someone who's not technical, who's just a trader, who's just a Hummingbot user, can pick up these bounties and successfully do the work that the exchange wants. Because a lot of times, what we found is just educating people on how to, let's say, create API keys, add them to Hummingbot, and then just get a bot running. That kind of that generates more confidence in people to run bots, and that kind of helps out the exchange where they're running the bots on. So now let me go ahead and give you guys a few updates on Botcamp, our training program for professional algo traders and market makers using Hummingbot. So in the past, as you guys probably know, Botcamp was like a cohort-based program. We've done 5 cohorts already, taught about 120 people over the past 9 months or so. Actually, past year. So the course we've done 5 times already. I think we have a good sense for how it works, and we've now kind of made it more of a structured course. We're in the process of revising it. So the 4 modules, which are intro to algo trading, market making, arbitrage, and then directional. Each of these will kind of like, hopefully build people up into using Hummingbot to create more and more kind of sophisticated strategies of each kind. Currently, we have the old videos from the past cohorts, as well as all the pre-recorded content. And so we're currently kind of restructuring that into 4 modules, each of which has videos, sample scripts that illustrate the various concepts, and then also some quizzes that we used to have in the live content. Also, the Botcamp platform will have the recordings of the past, live sessions and demo days from the first, 5 cohorts we did. However, from the experience, we found that a lot of people with full-time jobs, couldn't devote the time necessary for the course because it was like kind of almost too intensive. And also some students and some younger people who couldn't afford like the $2,000 fee that we're charging for the course. So what we're changing it to now is a monthly program where the people who are in Botcamp still have access to the same core course they had before, but on the Botcamp platform. But every month we're going to add a new module, and every module will have kind of a similar kind of cadence where there'll be like a live session as well as a drop of some pre-recorded content, and then we'll have some office hours to kind of like try to reinforce the concepts, and then we'll have like a bot trading competition at the end of the month, and so we'll kind of try to essentially try to do this cycle all the time, and hopefully the pricing is similar from from an annual basis, but for the folks who just want to try it out, we think we want to have a lower entry point. But so overall, the goal for Botcamp is essentially this course here, the core course, we kind of view as like the intro content. So this content will give you essentially the base level foundation in understanding what these kind of strategies are and how to create them in Hummingbot and how to run them in Hummingbot. But then the new modules will focus more on using Dashboard to create V2 versions of these strategies. And the reason we think you want to use Dashboard is because then you can do backtesting, hyperparameter optimization, and then actually creating a feedback loop where you're not just running strategies, but you're creating them using math, you're fine-tuning them, and you're kind of like doing essentially something that approaches data science and machine learning. That's why we think of like the core course as an important foundation. We're going to try to structure that into something that someone can just take in their off time, watch the videos, take the quizzes, and then understand how to the basics of how to use Hummingbot. And then I think this new the Botcamp schedule starting next week will really teach people how to up level their skills and use the V2 framework to doing this. So Wojat asks though, will the bot battle be open for the public? That's a great question. Actually, I would say for this first one, it will only be open to the people who are taking Botcamp. However, we're being pretty liberal about kind of like giving people access to Botcamp at least for the first 3 months. This new monthly thing is something we want to test out, but we do want to limit kind of like people who are participating in bot battle to at least initially to only the people in Botcamp. So for all, I would say it will only be people in Botcamp. But if you're interested in taking Botcamp, please let us know. We're gonna have a very generous kind of like policy for the folks in our community that just want to test it out for a few months. If you have any questions about Botcamp, just ask them in the Botcamp public channel. We haven't been fully, I guess, because we've been testing out various iterations of Botcamp, how to do it. But I'm pretty confident that this new monthly kind of cycle is the right one, because, and I think this bot battle is an important aspect of it, because what we found from doing the beta is that there's just a lot you learn from running bots, seeing what other people are doing, and then kind of learning from each other's experience. So I think that kind of like learning we want to try to restrict to the folks who are actually investing the time and effort and capital into buying Botcamp. Yeah, one question was from Maharishi was, are there categories like directional trading in Bot Battle 2? Yeah, actually, this is definitely something that we want to kind of explore in the coming months. The first one we did for Bot Battle, we didn't restrict anyone on strategy. And we basically said, we restricted people basically by exchange, by Binance, Perp, and Spot. To be perfectly honest, I think there's going to be a lot of kinks to iron out in terms of these trading competitions. Like which exchanges should we allow people to run on, how long they should be. Also, like how do we verify that people actually did it? So we actually exploring perhaps building something into the bot for people who are participating to automatically collect the performance, those kind of things. So I would say that's why we actually want to do it monthly, because there'll likely be kind of like new iterations every month, whether it's like trying maybe like something like asking people only trying directional strategies on 1 month, or market making strategies another month, maybe expanding to like multiple exchanges to allow people to do cross exchange market making. I would say from the first iteration, we were very excited about just the amount of like fun it was for all of us. So I think the main goal for us is just replicate that sense of like fun and learning that would be what we all got, I think, in the beta version, and try to expand that while hopefully keeping it more organized and more scalable over time. Okay, let me move on and finish off the call with voting in the Epoch 6 polls. Polls are, as a reminder, are the way that Hummingbot ensures that we have a quality set of connectors in the code base. So there's 3 polls every quarter. There's centralized exchange connectors, there's decentralized exchange connectors, and there's chain connectors. Poll basically allows people holding HBot to vote in the polls. So let me go to the polls now, and I'll just vote myself. I'll kind of explain my own rationale for voting, as an HBot holder, to explain like my own thought process and how I chose the connectors I voted for. As a disclaimer, this is me voting as an individual HBot holder, not representing Hummingbot Foundation. This is just me as my personal capacity. The first poll is the centralized exchange poll. So this is now active and will last for 7 days. The gold ones from last quarter was Binance, and silver we had Ascendex, Gate, and then KuCoin. For me, I think centralized exchanges are kind of like the most like the traditional exchanges that Hummingbot connects to, and but we have expanded the reach of these connectors over the past few months. So now the top ones, they integrate with exchanges spot and perpetual markets, and we've also added essentially connectors to the K-Lines historical data feeds for both spot and perpetuals for the top ones, which allows users to essentially use them as candles feeds in their strategies. So in this new version, we're going to allocate what this vote now determines is whether these connectors stay in the code base. So each connector needs at least 200,000 HBot to stay in the code base, as well as the top. We've also allocated bounties for the top exchanges. This is actually wrong. It's actually 400,000 HBot for the gold, and then 100,000 HBot for the silver exchanges, and no allocation for the bronze exchanges. So essentially the gold becomes a reference connector. That's the one we maintain. The gold also gets a 400,000 HBot bounty allocation, and the silver exchanges, which are maintained by the community, developers get a 100,000 HBot allocation as well. The bronze ones basically get to remain in the code base because the 200K, they've met the 200K HBot limit. The main goal here is to really focus our time and effort on the exchanges that matter to the community. So that's why for me, I always look at Hummingbot reported volumes chart. This is available if you want to know from the reporting section of the Hummingbot website down here. But this volume chart is this public dashboard that shows how much volume bots are reporting who are running Hummingbot out there. So in the past quarter, we can see. So yeah, we've seen some spikes, but overall, the volumes have basically ranged around 20 million per day or less. This is lower than it was in the past, but there have been overall volumes going down in crypto. So I think that this is not surprising, I would say. So the top exchanges, we see Binance and Binance Perpetual consistently in the top. This is a fork that may or may not be real. Who knows what that one is, but we do see many forks in the code base, some of which are official and some of which are a lot of which are just kind of forks that are also report. But in terms of the other exchanges that we see a lot of usage on, KuCoin, MEXC, and Gate are quite a lot, and also Bitfinex, Huobi, as well. The other thing we try to take into account how much fee share we're earning from the exchanges. So we're also making this more public now. So in the HBot tracker, which is the Google sheet that publish everything, you can actually see a new sheet here. There's a new tab called Fee Share Partnerships This is basically how much fees we earned from different exchanges in terms of fee share over the past year or so. So from this, you can see that it's really the top exchanges that do share fees with us. The fee share has gone down quite a lot over the course of this year because central exchange volume, especially on Binance, has dropped. But for us, this is this is just a factor of being in the market. And overall, one reason we are encouraged by the bounty system is because I think we're going to be doing more partnership with more exchanges and try to bring more exchanges into the fold as fee share partners for Hummingbot. But overall, I think I always want to try to have Binance and KuCoin at the top because traditionally these have been our top exchanges as well as Gate. I think for me, I'm quite encouraged by the growth of usage of Huobi from both a fee share perspective as well as in terms of reported volumes. So Huobi, or HTX, as is known now, it looks like the usage has been pretty consistent. Like 500,000 to even 1 million per day, and we see consistently 10 to 20 bots run at all times. And so for me, the fact that we're seeing consistent usage from Huobi, and the fact that they're getting consistent the fee share that the foundation's earning from them, which sustains their operations, is going up. I'm actually going to vote Huobi into the silver exchange category here this time, so that we can invest more resources into creating content, maybe fixing bugs and improving the quality of that Huobi connector. So I'm going to vote for Binance as my top one. So I'll give maybe 3 points to that one, and then I'll give a 1 point Kraken, and then 1 point to Gate. So actually, I'll just go, because I'm pretty sure I'll just go one vote each for all of them and just split my tokens 25% for each one. Signing MetaMask. Small Pepe, MEXC has 0 taker, maker, and taker fees on spot. That's actually quite interesting. I do see MEXC higher on our list here. Yeah, MEXC is one of the exchanges that we should likely try to do more partnership with. We actually used to talk to them quite a bit. But it does seem like volumes on MEXC are increasing. We're actually seeing 3-4 million per day across our community with like 30 or more instances. Overall, there are different exchanges that I think people are using. For us at Hummingbot, it's really about trying to increase usage overall while trying to make sure exchanges kind of value our partnership and can support us. So similar to the centralized exchange connector poll, the DEX connector poll is designed to allocate bounties to the top DEXs and basically tell us which ones should serve as a reference connector, which ones should be in the code base. One difference here in SEX is that here we have DEXs generally, which includes both direct connectors into Hummingbot, like DEXLot and Injective. This Injective Helix one, this is actually Injective V2. So this should be the V2 connector that Injective has, which is the one that's direct in the code base, and then the chain connector one that we have over here is going to be the older Injective connector. So we actually probably should have had defined this had 2 separate entries here for DEX connectors, one for gateway and one for the other one. But because this poll has already been created, people have already voted on the poll. I don't want to recreate it again. We'll make this clear, but this one here is really the Injective V2 connector, and then in chain it's the Injective kind of like gateway connector. So all right, so let me go ahead and do the poll here. One thing I'm trying to guide my voting now is really what connectors are people in the community using, and how do we increase the usage of those DEX connectors? Because I think we all know that DEX connectors are not being used as much as the SEX connectors are. However, we do see some usage, and so especially I think over the past month, we're seeing more usage on the DEX side. So I kind of want to take this data and try to use the data to guide my decisions instead of everything else. So one thing we are seeing is that the Injective V2 connector is getting a good amount of usage. And I think one big difference here is that this was a direct Hummingbot connector instead of going through gateway. We are also seeing significant usage in the DYDX connector, 7 million in the past month. And also, and I think given that they're changing to V4, I think it would actually make sense to invest some resources into having the community kind of like allocate bounties to upgrade to to DYDX V4. In addition, we're also seeing let's see, besides those two, Dexlot and Polkadex. Seeing a good amount of usage with 1 million and 1.3 million each. I think for me, I'm just going to pick the top 4 dexes by usage. Before, we were prioritizing exchanges like Uniswap and PancakeSwap because they were quite famous, but we're seeing more traction with these order book dexes. For me, I think we should actually be putting more content into DYDX, Injective, and Polkadex and Dexlot. It doesn't mean I still think AMMs are an important integration category for us, but at least for the next 3 months, given the traction we're seeing on order book cloud dexes, I think that's where the bounties should. All right, I'll vote there. I know it's been a long call, but I wanted to finish off by voting the new poll that we have for this quarter, which are the chain polls. So we created this chain poll because we're seeing that the same things happening with chains as with exchanges, which is that there's more and more chains out there, like L1 networks, L2 networks, whatever. And the role that I think the gateway plays is in the future is kind of like the integration point for all of these different chains, assuming that people are actually running strategies on the different dexes supported by them. And so for us, because we're seeing Uniswap be deployed on several different chains, same with like Aave, Sushi, and other dexes, I think that it's important for us to limit and focus on supporting a few chains really well, instead of trying to just be an open source repo that any chain can just add the code to. One of the core lessons that we've learned at Hummingbot over the past 4 years is that having kind of like a quality code base means you have to focus on kind of having a certain like reference connector, strategies that really work on that reference connector so other people can follow. But if you try to kind of support everyone, you kind of end up with a tragedy of the common situation. So I think, in my opinion, we should use Ethereum as the reference connector. It's kind of the main blockchain that everyone's really using. But there are significant differences between Ethereum and even other EVM compatible chains like Avalanche, as well as other systems like it's even more differences between Ethereum and let's say Tezos or XCC. To me, this is really about which chain should be in the code base. I'll leave that to the community to decide, but also which ones should get bounties from us to increase the support and to address any issues that the community identifies. Other ones I think we're seeing are Avalanche with support for the Avalanche dexes that we're adding, as well as for Trader Joe and other ones, Avalanche. And I also think the Binance Smart Chain is important one for us to maintain, because right now like the PancakeSwap integration does work, but I think we should actually be upgrading those integrations. So and then finally, I think in terms of other ecosystems, I think Polygon is the other one that I think we should try to support. That's also it seems to be getting traction in the blockchain world. So those are the 4 I would vote for. I'll just vote here. Okay, those are the 3 polls I voted in. It's going to be a matter that we need to reach quorum, so I encourage everyone from the community to vote. But before I end, I want to address a few questions. One question was, how do we disable data reporting in the client? That is in the docs field in the global config file that I believe says like enable data reporting. So you can just turn that off if you don't want to send data. But it basically sends only your aggregated volume by exchange on an anonymized basis every 15 minutes. Another someone also asked, can we contribute without being Botcamp? Absolutely. So I would say we think of Hummingbot as an open source community. So our main goal is to build a sustainable open source community filled with contributors. But Botcamp is really our way to make that more sustainable for us, because we have to make money and maintain the team. And so the Botcamp is really the training course we offer on top of Hummingbot for people that really want to learn hands-on how to do algo trading and market making in a professional manner. And so that's why the course is more about like instruction, and the bot battles are we think a key part of really enhancing the learning for everyone there. That's why the bot battles, at least initially, were restricting to people in Botcamp. But in the future, we actually might open them up, or at least open up certain ones that exchanges want to sponsor to everyone in the Hummingbot community. But yeah, overall, I think, as Fede said, we're taking it one step at a time. Overall, I think the key focus for us is how do we keep on growing the usage of Hummingbot while still maintaining the open source foundation and have it be a sustainable entity. Because as we all know, we're in a bear market for crypto. It's I think we all have the same goal in mind, which I think is to create something that's truly democratized and decentralized, but allows people to build whatever kind of bots they want. For our side, it's really just like how do we do that at scale? But anyway, I've gotten long enough. Thank you for everyone for joining the call this month, and we'll be here next month as well, with a recap for the next release. I just want to thank everyone for being a Hummingbot user, a contributor, and part of the community. So thanks, and I'll see you next time.